5 years after Oda drew the curtains open for Wano, the story of tragedy, perseverance, and revenge, covering 149 manga chapters and 200 episodes of anime, is complete. The curtains closed, and the author Eiichiro Oda announced that the next saga would be the final saga of the story. Wano stands as an ambitious arc, with an itty-bitty bit of pacing issues during the midpoint of the final leg of the story, the raid on Onigashima. But what I really love about Wano is its ambition to progress deep into a cave of some of the most important themes of One Piece. Wano is free, the Kozuki clan delivered their vengeance, and world-spinning clues and mind-shattering revelations about the most interesting secrets in the story. Let's reminisce on this great story. Toko, this little adorable girl, she's fucking hilarious by the way, lost her adoptive father during the gathering of the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance. Yasui, a former daimyo who resisted Orochi's rise to power, led Abizu's residents even though every person in this town was a victim to some of the cruelest torture from Orochi, and sacrificed himself to protect the rebellion simmering across Wano country. Desperate, the hunger drove Toko to eat a smile fruit, ultimately robbing her of any emotion besides laughter. No matter how much pain smile victims suffer, they are forced to laugh, and fundamentally this appears to rob them of their freedom of expression. In a moment of deep, empathetic affection for his daughter, Yasui eats a smile fruit to share in laughter with his daughter. This moment reminded me so vividly of Jaguar D. Saul when he explains to Robin why he laughs in the face of such pain. Yasui, you are one of the best. Thank you for empowering Wano to take back their freedom. The emotional gut punch of his death sets up and in a way foreshadows the tale of Kozuki Oden and his death. And we realize Yasui had been carrying on Oden's will this entire time, which means that he transferred his and Oda's dream of liberating Wano to Toko, Momonosuke, and the Wano people. The flashback of Kozuki Oden's life is my favorite story from the New World half of One Piece. The Red Scabbards of the Kozuki clan held Oden with high regard, and eventually we get to understand why Oden lived larger than life. One of the few characters that can stand alongside Whitebeard, Goldie Roger, and Monkey D. Luffy, and Oden's story ends in a way that he knows he was born to go through. Kozuki Oden was condemned to be boiled alive while holding his vassals above his head, further straining his body in an incredibly tense moment that I believe Oden couldn't survive. After all, we know Kaido and Orochi killed Oden. So even though we know Oden is a badass who was dragged through the New World by Whitebeard's ship for 3 days, he's going to die in this moment. He burns, and he burns for what feels like at least an entire hour. And Oda forces us to feel this moment in the manga. He manipulates time through breaking up these moments in repeated grueling panels at different angles while cross-cutting among Oden, Wano citizens, and his vassals. The pacing is incredibly intense, and then we learn the horror. It has only been 3 minutes. Oden bears a massive burden holding lives on his shoulders, but he knows Kaido and Orochi will kill him today, so he fights to transfer his will to the next generation, those that are there watching his final hour, and the story of Wano's vengeance and freedom would be nearly impossible without the inspiring stand against the enemy. Oden fights to have the borders opened when a certain person arrives. The person who inherits Joy Boy's will needs the borders open to change the world. Then it happens. Orochi and Kaido cruelly snuff out his life. Orochi changed his sentence to firing squad at the very last moment, and Oden declares that he was born for this moment. He was born to boil, and he dies with a smile on his face, indicating to us all that Oden was a carrier of the will of D, and thus maybe the entire Kozuki clan and Wano were allies of Joy Boy, allies of the ancient kingdom, and for some reason that has been obscured over the passing centuries. We first learned about Pluton within the tomb under Alubarna Palace, and that poneglyph read that Pluton was in Wano. This weapon is currently underwater, theoretically locked behind the borders of Wano country. When the Wano border is finally opened, the lower and much larger area of Wano becomes accessible, including Pluton. Whatever Pluton is, Momonosuke will be the person who unleashes Pluton, because the Shogun is the person who decides when the Wano borders can be opened. Some notes. Pluton is under the Flower Capital, which is the central island in Wano country. Isn't it interesting that Wano country appears to be a series of islands fit together? Remember how Oars was a giant called the Continent Polar? Onigashima, right off the coastline of mainland Wano, appears to be an even larger giant than Oars. So maybe something massive could have actually been large enough to pull these islands together, forming a continent. I have this suspicion that Wano's geography is unique to specifically protect and release Pluton. And we are eating good underneath this mountain because we also found the third of the 4 road poneglyphs. If you'd like to know where the 4th road poneglyph is located, please check out this video linked here and in the video description. These reveals take maybe the biggest step yet towards Laugh Tale, the One Piece, and the Void Century, which I think are the most mysterious secrets of One Piece that have yet to be revealed. Speaking of the ancient kingdom, let's consider what we learned about the island that protects the One Piece treasure. It turns out that Oda hid the true name of Raftel through a purposeful mispronunciation. The final island is Laugh Tale, named by Gold D. Roger when he arrived on the island to find Joy Boy's treasure, the One Piece. Roger, absorbing all of this information into his heart and his soul, laughs. He laughs so much that he named this island Laugh Tale, but let me ask you this. Why did Roger laugh? Was it because it was funny? Or was it for another reason? Darashi, the chapter title in One Piece where Saul explains to Robin why he laughs even when he is in pain. When I am happy, I laugh, so it stands to reason that if I want to feel happy, all I need to do is laugh. So maybe Roger laughed because he was in pain when he learned the truth. So maybe Roger laughed because he was in pain. Or, maybe Oda wrote that laughing when you're sad stuff for no reason. Authors love to just write random shit because it sounds cool, right? They don't actually think about every sentence that they write. Anyways, either interpretation still means that this is probably the biggest clue towards understanding what the One Piece is. It is a story that made Roger and his crew laugh. In a one-on-one fight, always bet on Kaido, and goddamn did this statement live up to reality. Kaido crushed the 5 scabbards, the worst generation, Luffy, Yamato, Luffy again, and he even put in a nail-biter final round against Gear 5 Luffy, and all while literally carrying Onigashima through the sky to literally crush Wano. And ultimately, it feels like Kaido wanted to be Joy Boy, but eventually, he realized that he would be the one who Joy Boy must defeat. He forces Joy Boy to appear, because as Kazuki Oden was born to boil, Kaido was born to lose to Joy Boy. Was Kaido the best villain in One Piece? No. Was Kaido a deep, complex character? Not really. And maybe that is the point. Kaido is a massive obstacle for Luffy to overcome, and beating Kaido here reminds me of Luffy and the Straw Hats crushing Cypher Pole in Enies Lobby. Now that I think about it, Enies Lobby is so similar to the raid on Onigashima. In his fight against Cypher Pole and Rob Lucci, Luffy awakened new abilities with his Devil Fruit, Gear 2 and Gear 3. Against Kaido, Luffy awakened the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. Joy Boy appeared in the story for the first time in Fishman Island. Nico Robin learned about this historical figure, who wrote an apology letter to Poseidon and Fishman Island, engraved into a poneglyph, and presumably this is the most important figure of the Void Century. Immediately, theories emerged in our heads. Is Joy Boy the key to the Will of D? Did Joy Boy leave the One Piece? And is Luffy Joy Boy reborn? Given all the allusions to an important figure arriving at the same time Luffy would be running through the New World, it seemed obvious that Luffy is the Joy Boy of this era, but we really didn't know what that meant for the story going forward. So ultimately their introduction serves as a plant for a future payoff in the story, only further reminded during the duel between Luffy and Kaido when he says to Luffy, "You couldn't be Joy Boy either." After filling himself with Caribou's stored meat, Luffy returns. They fight again, and finally Luffy truly dies. Then it happens. Luffy returns from the dead. Well, this is not only Luffy, this is the sun god Nika here to liberate all of Wano with the most ridiculous powers anyone has ever seen. And really, this is just Oda opening the door to what is possible. The potential of this awakening leaves Luffy enough time and freedom to defeat admirals, celestial dragons, and Eam. We get teased so cruelly about the circumstances of Luffy's fruit. Cypherpole fired the once great CP9 agent Who's Who, and while being fired in Cypherpole means you are just thrown in prison. But Who's Who was the world government prodigy before Rob Lucci, so his punishment outweighed the supposed failure of losing a random devil fruit to the red-haired pirates. And suddenly, so much mystery obscures the true nature of Luffy's devil fruit and the mission of Shanks. At this moment, we just needed to know that Joy Boy returned. Whatever that means exactly is still up in the air, but Luffy is this era's Joy Boy. Given that Luffy is this era's Joy Boy, the future leader of the Ancient Kingdom, and the future Pirate King, it only makes sense that his first mate is a descendant of one of the allies of Joy Boy. Zoro has long been theorized to be an ancestor of Wano, that he must have ended up in the East Blue after being smothered within Wano's borders. Let's consider the timeline of this immigration away from Wano with the absence of Odin and the rise to power of Orochi and Kaido. Zoro played mainly minor roles in Wano's story, and he played out one of the most important actions in healing the country of Wano. He returned Shishui to rest after it was ripped from the grave of Ryuma, the god of the blade, when Gecko Moria robbed Wano before tucking his tail and running back to paradise. Ultimately, for Zoro, the trade was worth it, as Kizuki Hiyori gifted her father's sword, Enma, one of the 21 great grade blades in the world that is one step away from becoming one of the rarest blades, a black blade. Time travel is one of those ideas that sound fun but often make the logistics of the story too complex to remain grounded to the reality of the world, but One Piece is wild. It is actually surprising that there had not been any time travel in over 960 chapters of world building. Even after One Piece mimicked genre after genre, time travel had been off the table. As it turned out, time travel is just insane enough that it makes perfect sense in One Piece. But the reveal that Toki arrived to this time from using their time powers to travel 700 years into the future. Toki existed in an era that operates completely differently, and the fog around her character keeps the world of 800 years ago a mystery, but every little detail we learn teases us with delicious possibilities that excite me, a person who loves the seeds planted, because not only is the present world building in One Piece vast and interconnected, but the past and these mysteries tease a depth of world building that frankly sets the bar for long-form storytelling. If Oda pulls off the mysteries of the Void Century, and I believe he will, then I truly cannot think of another series that matches the sheer depth and quality of the One Piece world. Back to Toki. By the way, in Japanese, Toki means time, so Toki ate the Toki fruit, which is just so stupid and silly, and I love it. We are curtailing towards a major war on a scale so massive that Marineford will look like little baby preschool time in comparison. We could see so many old allies return to the fold, and one of them would have to be Momonosuke and Yamato with the resources of ancient Wano and the Ancient Kingdom. The beautiful scene where Jinbei saves Luffy's life through sharing his blood with a human is one of my all-time favorite moments in all of One Piece. While Fishman Island didn't have a big, bad, strong, and complicated villain like Doflamingo, Luffy faces pure racial hatred and violence personified through Hody Jones. Earlier in that arc, we even saw the great Fisher Tiger refuse human blood in order to save his own life because of the darkness in his heart toward the humans due to the extremely inhumane, violent treatment that humans subjected to the fishman for hundreds of years. And Jinbei is the new era's carrier of Fisher Tiger's will, while Shirahoshi carries Otohime's will. This is all to say that Jinbei means so much to the larger themes of One Piece about the fisherman basking in sunlight one day, free from slavery and systemic oppression. And right when the Straw Hats needed him, Jinbei blasts onto the scene, and it just feels so good to have him here. Because I love him. I mean, Jinbei has not been in the story as much as many of the crew members, but he has always been there in the most important moments. Impelled down, he was there. Marineford, he was there. When Luffy was broken into 1,000 pieces due to the trauma of his brother dying in his arms, Jinbei was there to pick Luffy back up. Not to mention that rescuing Sanji from Whole Cake Island and Big Mom's Tea Party would have been completely impossible without the father figure of the crew. In Wano's epilogue, we finally see the last of the new admirals since the time skip. When Kuzan left the Marines and Sakazuki promoted to Fleet Admiral, Green Bull confidently strides into Wano, showcasing his forest Logia fruit, which Oda illustrates to provide a small glimpse of what this Marine can do. Being a Sakazuki fanboy, Admiral Ryogoku carries the will of absolute justice, and we have to wonder what is the motivation for carrying such a black and white vision of justice. The kanji tattooed on his body reads, "Double suicide at the River of Death." Oda, you bastard, teasing us with a tragic Marine backstory, which I do kind of feel is needed in this story because I really have never made a deep, strong connection with a Marine in this story. So maybe we will get a short flashback for this character, but I'm still waiting for the Admiral Fujitora flashback. I need to know why he blinded himself. Please, Oda. Ryogoku shows raw power and versatility. Shanks forces him to turn tail and run from Wano, which makes him look a little weak compared to the other admirals. But this is not truly fair given that Shanks' true power has only really been teased at this point of the story, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get only one close head-to-head match of Shanks versus another pirate, and that will be on Elbaf during Ragnarok, the Twilight of the Gods. Check this video if you want to understand Shanks' future fate in the story. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see my future content. I included the video about the last road poneglyph and a video about Shanks' fate in the video description. Bye bye.